Hello and welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Ewan, and otherwise known as the Twisted Echo, and welcome to my channel. Today is the very start of an entirely new series called Dragon Age Veilguard Prep Week. That's right, this is a week of prep for Dragon Age Veilguard, which launches Thursday the 31st, which is this week. I cannot believe we are here. I am so unbelievably excited for this game. I've been waiting for this to come out since I finished Dragon Age Inquisition just after it launched almost a decade ago, which is crazy. And I've recently, I'm sure you've heard on my streams or in my videos, I've been on a Veilguard, not a Veilguard, a Dragon Age excitement craze. Me and Alex and Ellis have been really into it since probably November, October last year. And I've been playing Origins since that time period. I held off on Baldur's Gate 3 to play all of the games from scratch, so I've played Origins 2 and Inquisition. I released an article about it for a university project, can you believe it? I've read all the books, all the comics, literally all the Dragon Age media that I could, and the first video that we're going to be talking about is a piece of Dragon Age media that is not the games, and that is Dragon Age Vows and Vengeance, a podcast building up to the launch. It has just finished its last episode, or 2 weeks ago it finished its last episode, so we're coming in a bit late, but I wanted to start with kind of my review of the podcast, talking about each episode, what it focused on, and following the journey of Nadia Carcosa as she explores and tries to find her lover, Elio. It's a first Dragon Age podcast. It's great in many aspects. It's very new as well. And basically every episode besides number one features a new companion and someone who we're going to be meeting in Veilguard, which is really exciting. So the first episode, which is episode 1, Once a Thief, and it introduces to Nadia, to Elio, and it does feature Nev Gallus, the detective, who's been in a lot of marketing material a little bit, and it basically explains that as Nadia's doing a heist, they found an elven relic they weren't supposed to have, and they became criminals. They escaped together, escaped Minrathous, which is where the story takes place, which is in Tevinter, and went over, and on the road they met the Dreadwolf, aka Solus, and from that meeting he showed them how to use the elven artifact, and it went wrong, shock, when Solus is involved, and Elio was sucked into the Fade, which very much sets up the premise for the story, which is Nadia trying to find Elio, who calls out to her after all is lost. Now, if you don't know about the Fade, it is incredibly dangerous, not a place you want to be trapped in, so quite reasonably Nadia wants to get Elio out of the Fade. And that leads us into episode 2, The Cult of the Doomblade, which features Harding and really focuses on her. Now, Scout Harding is a character from Inquisition who everyone wanted to romance, let's be real. I mean, you can technically romance her, kind of, but I think that's getting retconned. But you could get, everyone was like, oh, you two are a thing, that's cool. Even Vivian mentions it in Inquisition. So she's a great character, I really enjoyed her. I'm really excited to see more of her. And in this episode, we also meet Drayden, as they help prepare a village which is going to be destroyed by invaders. So our gang train up the villagers, make them all stronger, and Harding helps them out, and then points them in a new direction. And then we go into episode 3, A Deadly Descent, which is where our great friends meet up with Davrin, who is our Grey Warden companion in Veilguard. There always has to be one. Yes, technically there has been a Grey Warden companion in every single game. It was Alistair, then it was your sibling, potentially choice dependent, and then it was Blackwall, technically. So there's Blackwall, kind of. But there is a Grey Warden presence in every party, and Davrin will be this time. Now, Davrin is joined by the very lovable Asan, who is a griffin. Now, for those that don't know, for the past 3 games, griffins have been extinct in all forms of kind of Dragon Age media. But if you read The Last Flight, griffins are reintroduced. We will also be talking about the other books in a separate video this week. But yeah, griffins are in the world now, which is super exciting in Asan, and we have confirmed that his siblings will be explored as well, which is, if we get our own griffin, if we're a Grey Warden, whew, I will reset my playthrough right there. But yeah, they are really cool, and we see them in full force. We see, well, no, we don't see Asan in this episode, actually. We just see Davrin as he joins them in going down a mine that has been populated now by giant spiders and horrible creatures, and they explore, trying to find solace and getting access to the Fade. They are ultimately successful and found a secret ritual which will lead them to our next episode. Davrin doesn't go with them into their next journey, which is into Arlathan Forest, and that takes us to Beyond the Veil, where they partner up with Balara, our elven veil jumper, who shows them and takes them around the Fade, shows them how to get to the Fade, and there they meet a demon, and the Fade is once again shown to be a very, very horrible place. Now in this one, Balara is actually pleasantly very surprising. I had not been overly keen on her, and she actually became one of my favourites, but we'll talk more about that later. And they basically explore the Fade. Drayden and Balara are separated from Nadia as she faces her own demons, Elio, and she thinks she's found Elio, but she hasn't. It's just some demons playing some mind tricks on her, and then eventually Balara stays behind in the Fade to let the others out, fights off the demon, and we do not see where she winds up, but I'm sure we will find out. Which leads us into the Scales of Justice, which is the shortest episode, I believe, and takes us to Parvolan, the Qunari territory. Now I love the Qunari. I think they're great, and something about this episode just didn't work for me. I didn't love it. I didn't love Tash. They were just kind of going to hunt for a dragon, and they killed the dragon kind of very quickly. I guess Tash is super powerful, and we'll find more about that. I like Tash a little bit, but and it basically just is them getting out of the Qunari's hands, and not much happens for story reasons, but we just explore a lot of Tash and her connection to Qunari culture, which, you know, I'm on board with it a little bit. And then we go to episode 6, which is The Bride Wears Armour, and this is an episode with Lucanus, who's the Crow companion and an expert assassin, and he takes out the head of a very rich family, and that family coincidentally had Drayden's family killed. I should have said way ago, so I will include it in the video, spoiler warning. And Drayden's family turns out to be dead, and they are now the head of their family. And it sees them defending their Drayden's ancestral home from this attack, and then the captain, not the daughter, turns out to be the villain behind everything, and nearly kills Drayden. And Nadia needs to leave quickly to try and save their life. So they head to Navara to try and find someone who can. They try and find someone from the Mortalasi to cast some magic-y stuff. I didn't fully understand how the Mortalasi, because they deal with the dead basically and the necromancers, but like they don't like resurrect people. So I was like, I don't know how they deal with death, sure, but I don't know how the magic links to that. I didn't really feel like by the end of this episode I found that out either. But effectively, they meet up with Emric, the Mortalasi companion, and he takes them through and gives them some support and offers to save Drayden's life. They accidentally walk into a demon's lair, and the demon tries to pick them off one by one, nearly succeeding, but with Manfred, who is voiced by Matthew Mercer, I think it may be a waste of a very talented voice actor there, because he just kind of makes grumbling noises. I don't know if he's going to talk in the game. I hope he does, but he's just like and I'm like, oh, I was expecting like a bit of vocals, but no. So we see Emmerich save Drayden's life, and then the pair of them go and fight off the demon. But Nadia is pulled into the Fade by Elio, and Drayden has to go to familiar allies in episode 8, All Roads Lead Home, where Drayden links up with Varric, Harding, and Nev in Minrathous and explore where Nadia could be. We receive Nadia's full backstory and how she was abused very horribly by some local kids during her childhood, and her father found her and she was like eating rats and it was horrible. And then they fight Elio, who turns out to be a demon, and Elio's been dead a long time, and a demon who was in the shadows lurking whilst Nadia grew up, and kind of in this basement where she was abused, she kind of formed a link with this demon, and this demon wanted her. And Nadia is severely wounded in the fight that follows, but ultimately survives, takes everyone back to their ancestral home, or Elio's ancestral home, and gives him a proper funeral and send-off, and it's a really nice speech. She has some phenomenal voice acting in this, less phenomenal acting from the rest of them, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. This is just kind of story roundup, and then they, her and Drayden say that they're going to go create like a refuge for people who are broken and need some support. And then that really is it. I'm probably missing some things. I haven't re-listened to them all in anticipation for this video, just purely because I remember the general beats. And that kind of leads into, what did I think of the podcast? Well, great to see them diversifying into new media, firstly. Big props for that. Great to have all the voice actors, getting to know the characters. I love all Dragon Age stuff, so I was always on board for this. Do I think it's the best piece of Dragon Age media ever? No. Do I think it's good? Some episodes I think border on bad. I think the resolution wasn't great. I especially think that last episode really fell flat. I think my favourite episode was definitely Lucanus's in The Bride Wears Armour. I really enjoyed Beyond the Veil purely because of Balara. A Deadly Descent I actually really enjoyed. Not a huge fan of Davrin because he seems like another stereotypical warden, but the actual story and the plot I thought worked quite well. It had really good writing and voice acting, so I liked that one a lot. Wasn't a huge fan of the Cult of the Doomblade. It was eh. Harding has been a consistently during this podcast, I felt, and Once a Thief was a really good introduction as well. I really enjoyed that as an opener. So, what did I enjoy about the podcast? Really liked that we got kind of to see the limelight on most companions. Nev and Emmerich in particular, we didn't see that much. Tash, Lucanus, Davrin, Balara, Harding all got their kind of due, and they were really explored. We saw a lot about them, experienced their characters. Nev and Emmerich were kind of just plot devices. Like, Emmerich was like, oh, I can save you. Alright, cool. I couldn't actually say, well, I saved Drayden, but now you're in the Fade. You should go to Navarra. I can't do anything about that. Bye. And that was effectively his involvement. I felt we didn't see anything of Manfred, really, or any explanation of anything. He was just kind of in, saved Drayden, and then was like, alright, bye. And Nev, suitably, for a detective, did not do much. She, like, offered a cryptic warning in the beginning, was like, don't do this, it's bad, Nadia, or Elio, go save her. I can't remember who she spoke to, and then, like, tried to stop them from leaving, and that was her extent in the first episode. And then in the last episode, she was like, she did a little bit of detecting, and we got a Shadow Dragon mentioned, and kind of helped piece together where Nadia's ancestral home is, and then just, like, cast a spell. And that was effectively what we saw. And this seems to be consistent, at least from the people I've spoken to, that the last episode wasn't great. I also felt Nadia was very strong as a character. Drayden was fine. I felt they had a really good episode with Lucanus, and then that was kind of it. They definitely became more like confident. They had an arc which was great, and I enjoyed seeing that. Nadia's story was great from start to finish. She had a little bit of cringy writing at times, and especially in that last episode again. She also had some really high, great Mae Whitman, great job. Honestly, like you made me well up at times, especially in that last episode. Your delivery, great. Some of the writing was just, you could tell that they just weren't working with the best. Which does worry me a little bit for Veilguard, but it's a completely different team, so it'd be unfair to say that from this. Nev and Varric had terrible writing in the last episode, I thought. Harding too. It sounded like one of those cringy movies, like where they're like, "Oh yeah, teamwork, guys, here we go." There was a moment, I can't remember it, but they were like, "Oh no, it's a demon. What are we gonna do? Oh, let's work together, guys. All right, action." It was like Power Rangers. That was terrible, really terrible impression. But it was just not very good, and I literally rolled my eyes at it, which may seem harsh, but there was just a few of that moments throughout the podcast, and I was just like, ugh. And there was a few unnecessary kind of those moments where, you know, when you're with a podcast, the writing has to be on top. And in all episodes, me and Alex were talking about this, and Ellis. They sometimes just assumed you knew what was going on, like you were watching it. Like they'd be like, you'd hear footsteps, and she'd be like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "I've got no idea. Tell me, show me, do something." And it's like they don't explain. You're like, "I have no idea what's happening right now." Or it'll be like two swords clanging, but obviously you can't see who's winning or who's what, and like grunting. And it's like, I get what they were going for, but when you're doing a podcast, it's a lot more, yes, show don't tell, but also tell. If you're not doing good enough of showing and like making it really clear what's going on, you need a lot more vocal cues and dialogue cues and like people saying what they're doing. Like they did that final fight, I had a pretty good grasp of what was going on, and Nev would be like, "I'm gonna cast an ice spell now, watch out." And it's like, okay, that sort of thing, yes, let's make the dialogue a little bit more nuanced than that, but yes. And I could really clearly understand that. So the writing fell short a little bit. Descriptions, I never really, if I didn't see their photos on the thumbnails, I wouldn't really know what any character looks like. I still don't really know what Nadia looks like, or Drayden. I'm just kind of left to my own imagination about that, which is fine. But I would have liked to have seen kind of like a vision. And my biggest disappointment about this is where it's gone, where it's ended up. I was like, this is going to be cool, right? We're going to see Nadia and Drayden in the game. They're going to be prominent characters, or not prominent, but they're probably going to join the Inquisition. Nadia's going to want revenge for like Elio and what happened, and to hunt the Dreadwolf, and to have some more Dreadwolf stuff in there. Nope. They're out. I don't see them coming into the game at all. And that is incredibly disappointing. Like, they just use this to shoehorn in the companions and make you be like, "Oh, I know them now." And that feels just such a waste. Like, they could have done something with it. And I was just left at the end going, oh, well, what was the point? There's no story changes, no progression in the Dreadwolf thing, there's no overarching thing. All these characters are now interacting with the same person, and that person isn't going to be there. Like, every single companion has met Nadia Carcosa and helped her with Elio, and she's probably not going to feature in Veilguard. And if she does, it'll just be like, "Hey, I'm now running a refuge." Like, I wanted her to be an Inquisition agent, or maybe like hear about the Inquisition from Harding and go root them out and be like, "Oh, well, this is a great place for us to join and kind of step in there." And we got none of that, and that I thought was just such a missed opportunity. Either of them, even just like Drayden appearing. Yeah, having spent so long really kind of learning and going through with this character, to just see her be written out feels like a real waste. And it just feels a bit lazy, in my opinion. And this kind of other media not mattering approach to Dragon Age is really running thin on me, and it's really starting to take away from my excitement for the game. We're going to talk about that. One of these videos is going to be on the choices that are carrying over. I don't want to get into that because that's going to be its own video on itself. But yeah, did it get me excited about Veilguard? Yes, because we did get to explore the characters, and for that they did mostly a really good job. Lucanus, I'm really excited to see his character. I think he's going to be awesome. Emmerich, I can't wait to see more. I think he's going to be great. Nev, we've already seen quite a bit on her. I'm excited for her. Belara, Davrin, like both of them pleasantly surprised. No one in this cast seems really weak, and that is super exciting. In BioWare games, the companions are key, and getting to explore them and their personalities, I am excited for this cast. And that is something that I was really nervous I wouldn't be able to say. There are a few people I'm not overly bothered by, but there's no one who I'm not ready to meet. And I think that was the goal of this podcast, and I am now in a place where I'm like, I know about these characters, who they are. It's not going to be like, who are you, what are you, like they are the Veilguard, and these are the people that you're spending this journey with, and that is super exciting. So, in that respect, they did a great job. Whether they needed to tell this story, I don't know. I would have much preferred to have seen... I don't know. I think the format works, and for what it did a good job. I think it's literally just that ending. I would have preferred to have... I don't know. It just feels really unnatural. In a way, I'm kind of processing it as I'm talking right now, but Nadia and Drayden served as vehicles to showcase you the companions, right? And when you're doing a podcast, your central two characters have to end up somewhere. And Nadia, in my opinion, from what I knew about her, wasn't ready to give up the fight. She can't have just changed from being like, and I am going to avenge you, or the demon isn't even dead, right? Like, it's just gone back to the Fade. Like, there's no real resolution for Nadia, for her to do, other than her becoming, like super wounded and apparently unable to fight again. Don't know how that's happened in Dragon Age. No one's unable to fight again in that world. And even Nev was like, I can get you some implants, and I'm like, sick, that's awesome, let's do that. And then they were like, oh no, Nadia's leaving. What do I want to see next? Well, they've just got to stick the landing now. We've had our preamble, we've had our next steps, we've seen each episode kind of feed into each other, and now we've got to see them stick it. So that is my thoughts on Vows and Vengeance. Sorry I've been talking for a little longer than I wanted, but each episode kind of, I wanted to explore that a little bit in kind of each character. So to summarize, I think it's a great inclusion and a great kind of step in the Dragon Age media world. I also think they should have maybe rethought their approach to it. Maybe, because it basically just became each episode was a companion showcase. I would have maybe considered adding some extra episodes in there where we're exploring Nadia and Drayden and then link it into the game through them, instead of having it just feel like, oh, we were just showcasing our companions here. Which is fine if that's the only goal, but it just feels like a wasted opportunity. Really, really excited to see more of Davrin, Belara, Nev, not from the podcast though, just from everything else, and also Lucanus. The other three, so Tash, Harding, and I'm excited for Emmerich too. So Tash and Harding, I'm like, yeah, but I'm sure they will be great when we see them. What's coming next? So tomorrow we are going to be going over every other Dragon Age media that I've gone through and kind of my thoughts on it, and kind of giving a little review, what you need to know from each of them, heavily spoilers, but yeah, this has been Vows and Vengeance. So if you did enjoy this video and the start to Veilguard week, please do like the video and hit that subscribe button for the rest of this week's videos. I will be streaming Dragon Age Veilguard on the 31st, so go and get ready for that. Follow my Twitch. That is where that series is coming out, purely because I also want to enjoy this game without content creation, as I have the other Dragon Ages. So I will be doing streams here and there, but I also don't want to do a whole YouTube series where I feel bad if I'm missing content and not doing it. I will still be doing videos on it, for sure, but this month's series for YouTube is going to be Life is Strange. So that will be coming out. but this is going to be just focusing on kind of prepping for it, and then some occasional videos, a review, that sort of stuff. So yeah, subscribe to my YouTube and follow my Twitch, and also share with your friends if you think anything I had to say was worth thinking about. But yes, next video is going to be all the other Dragon Age media, and I can't wait to see you and speak about it. Alright, thank you guys so much, and see you soon. Bye.